currently in my singleness, I'm really realizing that I can't put my trust in a person. Because the moment you do that, you let them dictate your journey.
It was found that 44% of Christian singles were actively using 3 to 5 dating apps and sites.
Like, I hate to expose you guys, but didn't you guys like use a dating app?
If you're sleeping around with 15 different people trying to figure out who you're with, bro, you're gonna catch something, dog.
And there's like a couple of things that I learned. I think number one is while I was dating, I acted like a husband.
I have experienced being with individuals that just met my emotional needs at times. I think most people would agree there takes a certain level of discipline to just be like, hey, I ain't ready for a relationship. I'm not interested in a relationship. I'm gonna embrace my single journey.
Yes, I would try to put things under God, but I knew deep down inside my heart that I wasn't following what God wanted me to do.
Welcome back to another episode of SSB Podcast. My name's Daniel. Here we are in another environment. As you guys can see, it's not hard to tell. We are a little bit more relaxed, a little bit sat up a little bit.
You know, relaxed.
Different atmosphere. My name's Daniel. Once again, I got Jesse with me.
So you can tell some things have changed.
Some things have changed.
You know, not just environment-wise, but face-wise as well. You know, believe it or not, this has been a long time coming. And
Decades in the making.
Decades in the making. Everybody knows that I can't really grow facial hair, but you see me today. I have facial hair, and I have gotten multiple compliments and also multiple hate remarks. Let's just call it that. And I've also been called Gustavo. So hopefully that fits the description of who I am.
We had an old classmate named Gustavo. That may be who you're referencing, But Elijah, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm excited, pumped, very comfortable. You know, I had like 3-4 pillows before this, so they told me I can't be comfortable. No, but I'm genuinely excited for a new setup. I think we wanted to provide something different. We wanted to give the listener. By the way, thank you for everyone who's been subscribed, that has listened to us from day one, or if you're just tuning in. We wanted to create a space of comfort, but also of healing. And I think a lot of times, for many people, this is the environment where we can go deep and we can, talk about different things. And so I'm excited for the new setup, though. And
I think from this setting, too, we can kind of bring you guys on a journey with us. You see, we got the couch set up here. It's not much of a podcast setup, even though it's a podcast, SSB
It's not
Podcast.
studio.
It's not studio, headsets, So we want to invite you guys. It's chill, comfy. We got our mics on, and just provide authentic conversation for you guys. I like the setup. We're in Jesse's.
Yeah, this setup, it's great, but it's also like full transparency. It's not by choice. We bit of an interesting situation that we got in like last minute. But the studio that we're typically in, they're renovating it. They're trying to do new things, so we're excited about that. But honestly, I kind of like this mainly because I just kind of woke up and
what's your commute time?
Because it's about 10 minutes from my room to the living room, because this is my parents' house. So
basically, if there's anyone who should feel home, it's Jesse.
This guy right here.
Jesse.
Yes. I feel at home.
Jesse, yeah, we appreciate you for opening up your home and allow us to do this wonderful podcast. Today our topic is about singleness, fellas. But in saying that though, Jesse, he's single.
Thanks for pointing that out. Why,
obviously that
hey
one
guys,
person.
I'm single.
Obviously, and I say that in joking, but we want to discuss our journey, and we want to kind of talk about a topic that is relevant to everybody. 100%. Everyone at the end of the day needs their somebody, their companion, that person that they can grow, right? There's a lot of biblical verses about partnership and being together, and one is being together with two, or working together with two. You're more better than being with one, right? So we want to talk about the progression, the circumstances of being single, and some of that can be, and how some of that can be looked upon, and how we can navigate throughout our experience of being single, so that when it comes a time when we are ready to partner with our significant other, we are self-developed and ready and we can take on a healthy relationship. So let's get into it. Right? Like, what are some of the, and I can speak from my experience too, because that's what a lot of us we're gonna want to hear from our personal experience.
Absolutely.
Like, as a young male on his journey of developing and just becoming a stronger person, right? Like, I haven't had much relationship experience, right? Like, I've been fortunate enough to, travel from football and go through many different institutions where I never really established stability at an institution, but I'm thankful enough that I graduated, got a degree out of the institution.
Graduated, bro.
Right? Like, you guys at a certain point, right? At a certain point, you guys are like, all right, Dan, you're transferring again. Like, so I've been, on a journey of trying to find my path career-wise, and it's kind of taken me away from prioritizing the relationships where I think that's actually a good thing, like the balance of it, right? So, but as a single young man, I have had challenges of being single, and being as vulnerable and honest as possible. Like, there are days where, I get up, I see the sun shining, and I'm like, it's a nice day out, right?
I gotta text nobody good morning,
right? No good morning text.
Good morning, babe.
Like, I can go on a date, I can go on a walk.
Myself good morning,
right, but just spend some time with somebody else, right? And I think that's been something that, as a human, like, I come across just because, right? Like, we need somebody. But then there's also been days where I'm like, hey, I don't got any obligations to meet, right? So I can just live my life and embrace my own journey. So, Elijah, kind of starting with you and your journey, like, what are some of your challenges of being single, and how has it helped you? And in some senses, how has it hurt you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, singleness is, it's interesting if you think about, like, practicalities. A lot of emphasis is always on dating, engagement, and marriage. How much time do we spend on actually developing in the single stage? Like, truly, right? And so for me, I always thought of singleness as preparation for what's to come. And I only dated once in my life, and nothing bad happened. It just didn't work out. But currently in my singleness, I'm really realizing that I can't put my trust in a person. Because the moment you do that, you let them dictate your journey, and you give them the power to control you. And so I'm really realizing now as I'm developing and growing and maturing and growing out my goatee and beard, but honestly, that being single is okay. I think, like, for a lot of men, right, we think that, I gotta rush into a relationship, I have to start dating at this, I'm missing out. But what are you really missing out on? Like, realistically, are you missing out on, maybe cute pictures, maybe like, nice, date dinner that probably you're gonna pay for. So what are you really missing out for?
Right.
So
let me even touch on that. When you're talking about, like, singleness, like, I want to get into a relationship. I want to get into a relationship. Bro, not gonna lie, like, the worst times of years when you are single is Valentine's Day, and my birthday is the day before Valentine's Day. Okay,
I'm sorry.
So there is definitely some torture in that department, and it sucks. But, like, somebody once told me this that opened up my eyes to singleness and how short life is about 1/3 of your life is singleness and 2/3 is marriage. Think about that. The first 20 to 30 years of your life could be single, but imagine the rest of your life, however long you're gonna live. I mean, let's hope that you live to, like, 95, 100, you know what I mean? But in that case, like, think about how short life is, and then think about how short your singleness is. So it's like, to rush into that, and then you look back at it 20, 30 years into your marriage, and you're like, dang, like, I was only single for 18, 19 years, 16, 15 years, depending on, like, high schoolers trying to get into a relationship, which is a whole different topic. I personally fell into the aspect of, like, going into a relationship, like, in high school, and, I think
that's a great topic, though. I think it relates to the topic, though. Like,
sure.
It does.
High school relationships are, to me, we always say, like, some of my people that I know, like, we always say high school relationships don't count. But I say that from a standpoint of me not even exploring.
yeah.
I didn't even date in high school, right? So
Yeah.
like I never had a girlfriend in high school. I've only had one girlfriend
Yeah.
to this day. So I think that a lot of what I learned is my happiness is not predicated off of being with somebody else.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right. And I also learned that through my discovery of getting to know myself is going to make me a better partner. Right? Because I'm more in tune with what I like. There are people out there, and there's so much influence on what we see. But there are people out there who don't know what they like, but are in a relationship.
Yeah.
There are many triggers that they don't even realize are triggers.
Yeah.
But they're in a relationship.
That's
so
so
if you can
true, man.
identify what you like as a person, what you are turned on by, what are you turned off by, what are your interests, then that will make you a stronger partner.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's a stronger partner for the partner you're looking for.
Right.
I think that's think of it as I am becoming my best self, so that way whenever I find that person, I bring them my best self.
Yeah.
And so imagine rushing into a situation where you're ill prepared. You haven't got your finances in check. You have no idea where you're going in life. And so then when the woman needs security, needs protection,
Yeah.
you don't provide that. Yeah, you get in a relationship, but it's not gonna last.
Yeah.
And
that's
so
true.
I think for us, if you're single, just don't worry about that. Because if you just worry about yourself and really focus and prepare, that right person will come, and then it's just gonna be like, man, I'm so glad I waited.
But let me speak from a viewer standpoint,
Go
though.
ahead.
How important is the influence of the world, the worldly things, the social media? How important is
Huge,
that
bro.
influence
It's
on your journey of being single? Like, because there, to me, and I think most people would agree, there takes a certain level of discipline
Yeah.
to just be like, hey, I ain't ready for a relationship. I'm not interested in a relationship. I'm going to embrace my single journey.
Yeah.
Like, what's that influence? How powerful is the influence of what we scroll across every single day? Like, there are people now, like, y'all remember when we graduated high school and, like, probably a year after we graduated, it was like, oh, such and such is pregnant or such and such is engaged. It was like, wow.
It's
like,
constant.
but
That was
now,
quick, yeah.
It was
but
quick.
now, as we're adulting, the more pressure, the surprise is not more so on those people getting engaged or those people having kids. It's more so on the people who are still single. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, they've been out of high school for 5-6 years. They're still single. Like, what's going on? So how much pressure does the power or the influence of social media have on your single journey?
So there's the different perspectives of world and church, okay? Because in the church has more of a tendency to jump into relationships more than like the world. The reason why, or let's just switch that, marriage as a whole,
Yeah.
okay? Because Christians want to get into marriage, and it is for good reason, because they do not want to fall into sin. Whereas the world, you're dating and you're hooking up with your girl or your guy, whatever, like,
and,
you know,
all the
and
above.
you can do whatever you want. You can have the privileges of marriage within the context of dating. But in the
Yeah.
Christian realm, you can't do that. Like, it's against God. And irregardless, because at the end of the day, like, we want to follow what God says, because it is not just for the aspect of following a bunch of rules. It's not about that. When we actually follow what God says, it's actually a benefit to us.
Yeah.
It's a benefit to our health. It's a benefit to our minds. It's a benefit to relationships as a whole, because when you see a healthy, good relationship, it grows into something beautiful and godly. And at the end of the day, like, you try to take on the things of this world, this influence of the world, what you're gonna get is a bunch of soul ties. What you're gonna get are things that, like, you don't actually have true good relationships around you. On the whole health side is a whole different story. I mean, like, if you're sleeping around with 15 different people trying to figure out who you're with, bro, you're gonna catch something, dog. Like, you're gonna catch something. Like, it's gonna be, you're gonna catch something. So
That's funny.
Yeah.
And also, I kind of want to go back to the part where I exposed myself in dating when I was 17 years old. I am at my parents' house at the moment, and it was a secret relationship.
Oh.
Yeah, it was
Sneaky
bad.
link.
Yeah, it was a little
Sneaky link.
Sneaky link
Yo,
is crazy.
sneaky link.
It was secret because there's a whole other story aside from that, which I don't know if we're going to get into it. I don't know if we will or not. But at the end of the day, like, I'm exposing myself in my own house. You know, my parents already know about this, but
that's good.
Thank God. That would be kind of crazy if I just like,
Yeah.
hey, we're shooting a podcast at your house. And by the way, I had a girlfriend when I was 17 years old.
Surprise.
But it wasn't necessarily a fruitful relationship because, yes, I would try to put things under God, but I knew deep down inside my heart that I wasn't following what God was wanted me to do. And that's also on the side of like disobeying my parents, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think, like, I thank God for my parents and the fact that when they looked at my situation, like, they had so much grace. But at the end of the day, like, I knew what I did was wrong. And like, if I would have waited, like, there's so much more of a blessing in front of me, you know, so much more of a blessing. And like, that's for people that are waiting right now and you're struggling maybe in this season of life of trying to understand like who that person is for me. Like, God, who, like, I want to see that person. I've been praying for that person and you're still waiting. Trust me, the person that God has for you is amazing, okay? Amazing. He has designed somebody specifically for you so that you can be compatible with that person. But there's the aspect of waiting that you have to go through. But everyone knows that when you wait for something, the longer you wait, the more gratification you get at the end of it. And that's the principle of life overall. You don't necessarily have to just apply that to singleness and dating, but you can apply that to anything in life. The longer you wait for something, the harder you work for it, the more gratification you're going to get out of it.
Yes,
So.
and wait and prepare. Because you can sit around on the couch, relax, and Lord, bring me the one. But you're doing nothing to grow yourself. And my father actually gave me fantastic advice in high school, because I didn't date. I was very like, if people that know me from high school, I was not in a box, but I was like, listen, I'm not dating, I'm not talking to girls, nope, I'm good. Just because I knew the importance, because I valued the person, because I knew that I am dealing with someone's daughter. So I don't want to just like use like almost like a toy where it's like I'm playing around with it. I don't want it anymore, throw it away. It's a gem. And my dad said, you want to find someone that's compatible in spirit, soul, and body. I was 15, 16 years old when he said that. Because you can find someone, Dan and Jesse, that you both are believers, right? You love the Lord, but you might not be compatible on an intellectual level or even a physical level. You can find someone that both of you relate and you go to the gym together and you work out all the time, but you're not compatible or yoked in the spiritual. And so when my dad said that, it made it easier for me to know that just because something comes your way doesn't mean you take it. Evaluate it, see it. This is something that I can see, you know, I can live with. And so I was like, when he said that, and then now we have Spirit, Soul, Body podcast to kind of like, oh, wow.
Yeah, family influence, I think there's many different ways you can look at that and learn from it. There's an observation that you take from your family when it comes to your single journey, your single experience. Like, I know two-parent households are important when it comes to that. What do I like in a woman? What do I see in relationships that I can establish as this is something I like, this is something I don't like, and this is how I can navigate and how I operate my relationship. And I think that there's also that family influence aspect. Jesse, you mentioned like your family didn't even know about it. You didn't even want them to know.
But the crazy thing is, low-key, my mom knew the whole time because God told her because she's a super
So
better
the
person,
family influence of approval too. Like, like
Let's
your
talk about
family,
that.
your family is going to know. You might be so caught up in, we call it the puppy dog phase, right? Where you just think this person's so cute. Yeah, it's puppy love. And then you got your mother and your father who have been married for years, right? Decades. And they know, they can see right through a person. Or they just know if you're just all up in that phase of, oh, this person's so pretty and you can't see anything outside of that. So the family influence to me is going to help you in your journey of being single so that when you get to a point of, this is my person, right? I know how to accept that person for who they are, but not only accept them, understand them and know this is how I want to move in my relationship, right? Because the goal ultimately as, and Jesse, I joked about it, all three of us single, right?
Right.
It's not for long.
Right,
okay?
not for long.
Not for long.
Right? But
Prayers
I
up.
think
I'm enjoying the season of singleness,
Yeah.
but
Right.
I'm telling y'all now, not
and the
for long.
essence of this episode and this time phase that we're doing is that as we're going through this experience together, being single, we get to know what we want and we
Right.
get to learn and develop ourselves. So, but to the family influence, I think that is going to put you in a position where you can allow yourself to grow and
Yeah.
see what your family looks like from a marriage standpoint, because our ultimate goal is to get married, all three of us,
Right.
Yeah.
and learn how to navigate a family,
But
how to
then,
build a
what
family.
if, which is amazing, like I said, all of us had amazing family influence. What if someone doesn't?
Yeah.
Imagine if, like, let's say,
So-
what advice would you give to those individuals where maybe they have a toxic, like, family?
Family, yeah.
Where
Yeah.
maybe not a stable household, maybe.
You might not have a good example
Exactly.
of a good
Yeah.
So,
family.
like, for
Yeah,
those
bro,
people, they
that's so-
can't
so
look
often.
into their
Yeah.
family for. So, what would be an alternative?
And I think that a lot of those type of situations, and I can speak from what I've observed in certain experiences, right? Like not being able to see an established relationship for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? Would that have something to do with my consistency when it comes to my relationship, my trust, my rebellious, like my ability to connect with somebody? Like I didn't get that complete example. I'm saying some people can see it as I didn't get that example, so I don't know how to navigate that. I'm experimenting, right? So for some people, I think that it is important to know thyself first,
Yeah.
Yep.
right? Like one of the things I did that I'll never regret to this day, it's made me a better person. The best version of myself that I am on right now is journaling, like having that one-on-one personal time. I appreciate that, bro.
Yeah, we got.
That's love. But
Unfortunately,
journaling,
I
I can't fist bump you,
man.
but-
okay, but it's something
Yeah.
that from
I
a
need to,
mental
though.
standpoint, a psychological standpoint, it's personal growth. And you get to observe yourself, your thoughts, right? Your experiences, you get to reflect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you grow as a person, which makes you a better person and allows you to understand more of what you like.
Yeah.
So in a sense of, from a sense of getting to know somebody, right? There are conversations that I display, that I have, sit down, talk to people, and you can understand that I know what I want.
Yeah.
And I articulate myself in a way that people understand me.
Yeah.
A lot of that came from journaling. Like
Yeah.
I would encourage a lot of people who
Yeah.
are on that discovery of figuring out what they like and how to articulate that, how to connect with yourself more. Journal, write down your thoughts. It's free thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think that will help you become a better person for someone else and for yourself.
Especially for men.
For men,
Like,
especially,
we
yeah.
have the tendency, right? I'm generalizing, but maybe not.
Yeah.
As men, we hold it in.
Speak for yourself.
Do you journal? I've been journaling with Dan
Yeah,
for
yeah,
a
for
minute.
sure.
I don't
yeah.
journal, I just speak it.
Yeah.
But no, I'd actually
there has to
don't.
be an outlet of where you are allowed to express yourself. And people think that expressing is a sign of weakness, but it's actually a sign of strength. Being
Yeah.
able to get your thoughts on paper, it can be just by speaking. It allows you to really not congest your mind to the point where you feel like you can't hold it in, and then from there outbursts happen. And I've been journaling since 15 years old, and it's just helping to really, like, that frustration, or even, like I say, I had a bad day, and just be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
I think people need to be honest with themselves and realize, like, man, maybe this season does suck of singleness.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's okay. What can we do?
Right. And the reason why I bring up that, because it's a vulnerable time and you understand your emotions, right? Because you're putting your thoughts on paper.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with so much of these emotions. A lot of women say this, and I'm speaking from the male perspective, because we lack emotional intelligence at times. We don't understand how to tap into our own emotions.
Yeah.
Therefore, we don't know how to tap into others' emotions.
Yeah.
Right. So when it comes to understanding someone, right, how do we navigate trying to have a strong relationship with someone when we never seen an example?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. We tap into our own emotions and we understand how to navigate and develop strong relationships. Therefore, if I understand my emotions, I'm strong. I have strong intellectual skills, personal skills. Then I can pour into that partner of mine, and we
Yeah.
can grow together and have a strong relationship.
You know what's interesting though is, like, emotional intelligence is a sign of maturity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's a sign of growing. Like, man, in my job, like, dude, biggest thing and to becoming a leader at my company is like emotional intelligence, like social awareness, self-awareness, like how to react and knowing yourself, and like honestly knowing your emotions and being aware of your emotions and the people around you is like a good leadership quality, bro.
It's so important when it comes to people in general. Like just, I don't care what space it is, right? Like even in a business setting, right? In a locker room for me, like is knowing what is something that can potentially piss somebody off, right? Quite frankly, and then knowing, and then knowing how to make somebody feel good, knowing when someone's not having a good day, how to lift them up. Like that's all part of emotional intelligence. And if you lack that, then it's going to be hard for you to pour into somebody and meet their needs when it comes to that emotional, because we have good days, we have bad days. Like, how do I meet this person's needs when they're not feeling the best? And how do I understand my own needs? Like, what do I need to do to feel better when it comes to my emotional stability?
You know, it's interesting when it comes to pouring. So if you have a cup, right, any vessel, let's say I am the vessel. And if I'm trying to pour into you, I have to make sure that the substance inside of here is going to benefit you. So what if in here I put, it can be toxic situations, it can be trauma, it can be hurt, it can be depression, whatever the case is, and you're getting together with someone and it's like, hey, I'm sharing this with you, right? So take this.
What's in here?
Right. So now when you start, you don't have to drink it.
A lot of good things.
So once you start drinking it, that what's on me is going on you. And so we need to make sure pour. So I'm not gonna pour, Jesse.
Go ahead, pour it on me. No, actually no. Like
We need to pour out, so that way we can pour in.
Right. And you pouring into somebody is creating an experience for them that they can learn from, whether that's good or bad. Right. So in a lot of times when we get in relationships, we are fortunate enough to learn from your experience, and take it,
and your experience.
Right, and create your own experience from it, right? And I've learned, like, there are toxic relationships and there are healthy relationships, right? If I'm pouring in toxic to the cup, right, to use that analogy, right, I'm going to get that, it's going to reciprocate, right? It's going to reciprocate, and that is something that I have learned on my journey of learning other people's experiences, is how can I use that experience and grow from it and take that into my next experience.
That's true. And catch this, let's think about this, because I think all of us can possibly fit in this category of thinking that you're ready. Because bro, like, I'll be honest, man, the past 6 years I've been ready, right? And I'm sure that you guys can probably say the same thing, whoever's single. You're like, bro, where's my significant other at? Like, I'm ready to get into a relationship. Are you? And I'll be honest, man, like, I thought I was ready for the longest, okay? I thought I was ready. The moment I got out of the last relationship, I said, I'm ready. You know what I mean? But dude, I've noticed over time that, like, God, the things that I don't notice, God is working on. God is trying to take those things out. Things that I did not understand or notice, stuff that happened to me in a past relationship, or things that I just have a bad tendency to do, bad habits. One of them was being really petty. And I sometimes I'm a little petty here and there.
Is.
Don't define me by my past.
I'm
kidding. But no, seriously, like comparison, like those different things. Like God was working on that in me through different situations when I didn't even realize it. But the whole time I thought I was ready. So like, let's talk about that real quick.
The ideal of being with somebody. The fantasies. Basically.
Fantasizing.
Right. We fantasize over certain relationships, because there's certain things that are cool about relationships, and then there's certain things that's like, I'm kind of.
You only look at the good things in a relationship.
You don't like
you think about, like, man, Valentine's Day I'm gonna be booed up, like around like Christmas time is like, bro, it's treacherous, man. It is a horrible time. The older you get, it gets more difficult when you go to like the family functions, or like whenever you're with friends and like you're the one that's standing out.
And then they keep asking you like, hey, where's your
that pressure
I can
a
speak
little
on
bit.
third wheeling a lot, but that's a whole nother episode.
But the ideal of being with someone, I think, also kind of ties into, like, maybe you can meet the right person in that sense and then just be the wrong time. You know, you can meet somebody and they may fit all the qualities that you desire, but it may be the wrong time. But to create these fantasies that you have in your mind, I think that a lot of that is predicated off of what you desire based off of, I don't know, an experience that you've had.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right person for you. I have experienced being with individuals that just met my emotional needs at times, you know, like, or just met, or just filled the time frame for me, right? Like the fear of being bored or lonely, right? Like, so you get into these relationships for people to benefit yourself, right? But how are you benefiting others when it comes to? So I think the ideal of, like, a lot of people have this checkbox list of things that they like, right? But does it really match, right, what you need in a relationship?
And with the checkbox, you know what's interesting? Most people write a checkbox of all the qualities you want from a person. What about qualities that you personally need to have to be that person that can attain those? So I think we need to start making a second category. Hey, I need to make sure I'm fit, right? Make sure I'm healthy. Check. Am I emotionally stable enough to go through trials and, you know, tough times? Check. But for you, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just...
Right. Like, everybody thinks of relationships first from a selfish lens.
Yeah.
And dude, relationships are nowhere near, like, about you. It's typically about the other person. So it's selfless.
Let me ask you this, Elijah, because that's a good point, though. What do you think about people who say, like, if I was to ask you, hey, Elijah, what do you bring to the table? And your response is, I am the table. Like, what do you think about that? Like, to me, that insinuates that you don't need to bring anything to the table. People come and they develop and they adjust around your qualities, right? Like, I am the table and you bring to the table to me and allow me to provide based off the needs that I already, or the stuff that I already possess. Right? Have you guys heard that before? I don't know if
that's new, and it took me a minute to actually understand what you're saying.
I was like,
like, people, I've heard people say, I am the table.
Like, it's in other words, you mean in a cocky way.
In other words, like, you believe you're so valuable that people's attributes have to complement you. Like, they have to bring something that you are willing to accept, and that you have to be good for them to. Does that make sense?
No, like, that's true. And it goes on both sides. Like, as much as, like, you know, maybe the woman brings a lot to the table, or like the guy brings a lot to the table. It's just like, it has to be congruent. We have to get together and we have to know, like, and having the selfless point of view, because there's that scripture that maybe men love to quote of, like, you know, wives, submit to your husbands. But the other command is honestly, like, at a much greater depth of responsibility. And that is, men, love your wives like Christ loves the church. Do you understand how high of a responsibility that is? Like, bro, love your wife just as Christ loves the church. Bro, God loves the church. Jesus loves the church, like, beyond what we can even fathom or imagine. His love surpasses understanding. So, like, that's a lot to take in as a guy. But the reason why is, like, we always love to quote that scripture to the side, like, oh, wives, submit to your husbands. But, bro, it goes hand in hand. Both sides need to be able to come together, and it's a selfless act. Jesus was selfless towards the church. He gave himself to die on that cross for us, so that not only we can be free from sin, but that we can have life in him. And, like, he's telling us, you got to do that in love too.
And to that point, though, that's the reason why I think that we each should bring something to the table. Right? If I'm just a table, right, and you expect someone else to just bring stuff to the table and you don't bring anything to the table, then how much pouring are you doing to someone else?
You know, it's like you're the empty cup and you just keep pouring and pouring and pouring
into you know? So I think that that's important to consider when you talk about bringing to the table. Like, we each got to balance each other out. Right? And if you bring something that benefits me, then I should bring something that benefits you. When it comes to your relationships.
And sometimes people will have something on the table that might not be the best thing for the other table. So you have to find someone that, okay, when you combine the tables together, yourself together, now you need to, first of all, get a bigger table.
Yeah.
Because God has a bigger purpose when you are with someone.
That's true.
And so then those things have to complement each other. They don't have to be identical. Complement, so that way you can go out, and then you can go out pour even greater. So
yeah. This is the beauty, though, of a relationship, a godly relationship, is neither person is the table. God is.
Yeah.
There you
So
go.
Amen.
we're actually placing everything good within ourselves, not just for each other, but when God is in the middle of the relationship, we're doing it for Him.
Yeah.
And that is a greater thought process in a mindset that we could ever have, because it's not just about us. It's not just about the other person. It's resembling Christ, and He's the table that holds it together.
That's so good. We're the vessels.
We're the vessels.
Yeah,
We're the
honestly.
vessels. That's it. We're
Yeah.
just the vessels, man. That's it.
I like that. And I want to talk about a little bit, like, we spoke about it, like, because thankfully we've been able to experience our relationship and we've learned from it. And I mentioned how you can take something from one experience and bring it
To the next.
right? You can learn from this experience, whether it's good and bad. Like, I know that this is what I don't like. This is a deal breaker.
Yeah.
So in your past experiences in relationships or your past experience, like, what is something that you've been able to learn? You know, like, for me, I think that I didn't really tap into being vulnerable enough. Like, I wasn't vulnerable enough, but I understood the emotions and the importance of being emotional intelligent, understanding the personal experiences of other people, but being vulnerable in a sense of trusting that individual enough to express things.
Yeah.
Right, like, that's something I could say I learned from in my past relationship that I could take from in another relationship is vulnerability. Like, and that's what, as men, is good for us to talk and discuss our experiences, relationships, because if you trust somebody, you can be vulnerable with them.
Yeah.
You know, so how important was that? For me, it was very important.
Yeah.
Right, so that's something I learned from my past experiences. Or experience. Experiences. But I say it from a broad sense of experiences for other people as well. Like, your past relationship experiences help you in your next phase of relationships. How important was that for you?
Yeah, for me, I learned because I've only been in a relationship once. And so I had expectations in a sense of, here's what I'll say this way, I had no clue what I was doing. Not in a sense of, like, I'm not confident in myself, but I'm going into a new realm in my life where now I'm not dealing with me. I'm dealing with another person. And there's like a couple of things that I learned. I think number one is, while I was dating, I acted like a husband. And I repented before the Lord for that.
Go into more
Yeah.
explanation with that.
Explain that,
Yeah,
man.
no,
Like,
no, no,
what
this-
is a
What does that
husband?
mean? Because
No
you
one-
are technically, like, if you're dating, you're trying to build yourself to eventually fill
Yeah.
that role, right?
We
Absolutely.
date to marry. That's what we do. We date to marry.
Right.
So, you know, some could say, like, there should be not only husband tendencies, but you should establish yourself
Right.
as a potential husband.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you shouldn't bring those qualities, but there was moments in my relationship in the past where I did things that are meant for the husband, like just the way I moved, like, because a lot of people, like, were even thinking, oh, I thought you were engaged, I thought you were married, which no, they really thought. And so for me, I'm like, I'll give a couple of examples. Like, for example, when we're dealing with situations, right? I almost, like, I'm a person that, like, let's figure it out, let's get to it. And it's good. It's a good thing. You have to see if you're able to do it.
Yeah.
But it was becoming where it's like I was overstepping the season. So I was trying to jumpstart and acting like a husband while I'm actually dating. So, there's the single stage, there was the dating stage, and then engagement, and then marriage. So what I was doing, I was bleeding some of the things that are left for the husband. Like, for example, I am thankful that I protected myself on a physical level, but still there's things that, like, for example, being too touchy, right? Things that you're doing things that are meant for a different stage.
Got you.
So that's what I'm implying when I said that I acted like a husband at moments.
Got you. That's good. I like that. You act like that gives a visual for people who may not operate their relationship from a stage standpoint. Like, there are progressive stages to relationships.
Like,
you have a girlfriend, right? And then you're engaged.
Yeah.
And then your
And then
fiance,
married.
and then marriage.
So for example, right, if like while you're dating, you don't have to experiment with sex to know.
There you go.
So, right?
Yeah. But unfortunately, like
It happens.
people
Yeah.
use that as a thing of like, oh, I want to make sure I'm compatible with that person, which
Happens, yeah.
like
Yeah.
full transparency, you're just like you're taking a part of your soul constantly whenever you do that, like bits and pieces to
Yeah.
the part where you don't know who you are anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
So
know?
there's an emotional connection, and then there's a physical connection.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we all get old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I'm physically attracted to you, your physical looks are bound to change.
Yeah.
That's so
right?
true, man.
And if I am not
I mean, look at me,
emotionally,
bro. Look at
if Jesse's
The beard.
physical, his physical look has changed, ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen. But no, if I am not emotionally connected to you, then where's our connection over the course of time? Because they say relationships, after they run their course, after you get through that phase of puppy dog, the love, the cuteness, and everything,
Right.
like now, like who is this person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Why do I like this person? It goes way beyond physical, right? So now I'm looking inside, right? I go from exterior to interior,
Yeah.
right? And you really should, like, you should work from inside out. That's the way.
Yeah.
You have
Right.
conversations with somebody. You have your physical preferences. You have a conversation with somebody. You understand their goals, their values. That more so should lead to attraction than what a person looks like. But
Yeah.
we have our preferences, right?
Right.
But
Right.
the importance of emotional connection is that. It's like, how do I understand this person? How do they meet my needs? And how can I grow with this person?
Yeah.
Right? It goes way beyond your physical attraction.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's something to think about, right? And your
Yeah.
experiences and understand the phases of relationships, like you talked about. Like, if I'm dating somebody for a month, right? Do I want to operate as if they're my fiance? Do I want to meet? Do we want to meet each other's family? Right? Is that too soon? Probably so, right? Or do I want to get to know this person, go through certain experiences with them, so that I understand that this is somebody I want to meet my family,
Yeah.
and we can progress from there.
Yeah. I think over time you also get to know like more and more your preferences, or like you get to know what you actually want, because
Yeah.
and that grows over time. Like, I'll be honest, man, like 18, you don't really know what you want. 17, you really
You
know what you
think.
want.
Let me ask
but
you
like
this, Jesse.
keep
Do you think you have to go through, and this is from a broad standpoint so the viewers can understand this question, do you think you have to go through relationships?
That was actually what I was about to go
In order
into.
to know
You read
what
my
you
mind.
want.
So
Wow,
what,
look at
like
you,
in terms of
reading minds.
searching, right? Like,
Right.
I was a question I was going to ask you guys, because like there's different points of views, and culture makes a huge difference on this, right? Because there are some cultures that are focused on like literally your dad tells you who you're going to marry, like, you know, but let's just talk about like American culture
Yeah.
specifically
Yeah,
right
westernized
now. Yes,
culture.
westernized culture. Like the West is typically on the part of like dating till you find the person. But if you keep searching, like, is that a good thing? Like, are you guys more into like dating until you find that person, or you're like waiting until you find the right person? It's like,
So the way I thought, again, I thought I was a one-shot sniper. Like, I found the one, that's the one. I think that's another reason why I jumped aboard in a lot of situations and circumstances, because, oh, that's the one. Oh, this is,
Yeah.
you know. So if you guys know me, I'm
Yeah.
a go-getter. So
Yeah.
that's a thing that for me, I kind of like, okay, Elijah,
Yeah.
going forward, next time, don't do that.
Yeah.
Take your time.
So, right. And I think, so you dated with intention. You thought she
I
was a
did.
one-shot hitter. Therefore, you knew she possessed a lot of those qualities that you would see yourself complimenting, and ultimately
Yeah.
in marriage becoming a long thing. I think that we misuse the exploration. Like, when we
Yes,
want to explore
bro.
things, we don't date with intention.
yeah, it's
Like,
like
a
dating
lot of
with
us-
the part of like, I could see maybe something
Right.
Yeah.
happening.
A lot
but
of
you
us
just keep-
take one or two qualities in that person and say, I'll explore that. It's an experiment.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. And we're not meant to date like that, right? So
Yeah.
when we don't date with intention, right, we don't get to truly know a person. Therefore, then a time comes where there's conflict, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't even have to be that big of a conflict, and we're ready to dip.
Yeah.
Because there's no true commitment.
Yeah.
Right. So if we date with intention, right, we understand that what we like is what we like, and we can explore it in that way.
Yeah.
Then I think that, because there's good and bad things to exploring in a westernized culture.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many apps, there's so many dating apps,
Bro,
right? That we
Mingle
talk,
and
right?
Tinder and
Right.
all-
Yeah.
There's a statistic on dating apps,
Yeah.
but
Yes, yeah.
but there's so many dating apps. There's social media. There's a broad view of selection, so we can explore who we like and what we like, but we have to be intentional in seeking that.
Right.
And with
But if we're not
boundaries.
intentional, right. But if we're not intentional, then we're just going to go from one
But that's the
relationship to
thing.
the next
Most
and not
people-
learn much.
Most people like, and this isn't pointing fingers because I think all of us can work on this, but it's a lack of self-control.
Yeah.
It
Like,
is.
it's a lack of self-control to get into a relationship as a whole, because like sometimes we want to just go after something again, like just because we want to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like waiting is so much better than that. But we like have this culture where we want things right here, right now, which is partially like the dating apps. There's good things and bad things. But bro, I'm like, I hate to expose you guys, but
Wow.
didn't you guys like use a dating app? But
Okay.
go ahead, tell the audience, man. I just want to say I've never done that, never searched for it.
Yo,
But
let's talk about
Hey,
it.
let's no, we're gonna open up. So, Jesse, yes, we did. It honestly, it was like just see what it's about. It was not Tinder. Just want to make sure I'm clear.
okay,
It was
okay.
not that.
Just there's quite a few sites out there.
So we didn't. And it's funny that like Dan and I, the way we've moved, like we're almost like, if I'm doing it, he's doing it, not intentionally,
And they typically
But,
leave me
so-
out of it.
basically.
No,
That's
but
what happens.
That's where I find like there's some good in exploring, right? Trying new things.
Yeah.
Like there are certain people who, just don't have that experience of getting to travel or meet a lot of people. Like for me, I didn't have stability in going to school and staying in that same institution for a long period of time.
Yeah, you were-
So I struggled with connections. So I explored. I've explored dating apps. Like so, I've been able to
He
explore
swiped
that.
right.
Swipe right.
Swipe right.
Whatever it is,
Swipe
right?
left. But in that though, it was with intent though.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't to just going as many dates as I could. As a man, all those dates that you go on, you probably are
Paying. Yeah.
Especially, I believe in men paying
of
for
money.
dates, right? Like you got to pay for that date.
Especially the first one where you're initiating.
That first date, right? Because you're
Even going
pursuing your
forward.
woman, right? Right. So
Yeah.
I think that in that time, I was exploring what I liked, what I didn't like, right? And through the stages of getting to know somebody, I was able to learn from that experience. And there's Jesse, can you read that statistic that you mentioned? There's
I got
a
like a little
statistic.
statistic, but so it says, and this is on like it's a Christian dating app article that I found this on, but it says according to a survey of 500 Christian singles from around the nation in 2018, 80% of believers have tried online dating. So that's crazy. That's a staggering insight. 80%.
80%.
I am on
Hey,
the 20 side.
We're in the, yeah.
Hey,
We fell into that.
But in the same survey, it was found that 44% of Christian singles were actively using 3 to 5 dating apps and sites due to the rise in online interactions during the COVID-19 pandemic. It's likely that these numbers have increased. So that's crazy.
So if you think about the time that we all went through when it comes to COVID, there was a certain time we were all locked in our house.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that in that time, dating apps were insane, right? When we were all quarantined, we didn't have anything to do. A lot of people didn't know what to do, right? I'm sure that's where dating apps increased.
Yeah.
Profile users.
Bro,
and,
so
like,
much
you
more.
know.
I mean,
So
you have to
right.
get to know people,
Yeah,
right?
get to
And you
know
didn't have
people,
that interaction,
talk
which
to
is
people,
fine.
right? But I think that the staggering thing to me is the usage of 3 to 5 dating apps.
Bro, yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I think
that's
that
crazy.
each dating app has a different criteria in terms
Yeah.
of like what their motive is, what their purpose of the app is. Like ultimately it's to date. But there are
Yeah.
Christian dating apps, there are
Not-
sneaky link dating apps, right?
One
Yeah,
night.
it's
There are
one night
certain dating
stand.
apps, right? Like one night stands. But again, the important part of that exploration is being intentional. Like, what are
Yeah.
you seeking? What are you looking for? Right? They have Christian dating apps. They have different cultural dating apps,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they have dating apps where you can really establish like this is my purpose and intent for why I'm on this. So I think that statistic's interesting though because it shows you that more people than you think are partaking in that exploration, which is
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
okay.
And one of my mentors, when before like beginning dating, I was like a little nervous because I was like, I didn't want to rush it. I didn't want to just do it impulsively. I wanted to like seek advice from parents, from
That's a good
outside of.
thing.
So make sure that you get perspective, people that you trust, and they know they have your best interest. And one of my mentors said, Elijah, you can't eat from a restaurant from a distance. Like, you have to go in and try it. But of course, if you're leaving that, leave it, better than you found it. Mm-hmm. And so for me, my intention, if let's say I was with a person, which happened, and we're not together, I wanted to make sure that I know I did my best to make sure I left them better than I found them.
Yeah.
I think most people do the opposite, is they go in a relationship and they burn certain things like bridges.
Yeah.
And they leave it toxic, and they bring more baggage or leave more baggage than they take. So I think that's something that I've learned is like, it's good to explore, but make sure it's within boundaries, and make sure that even if you're exploring, you're following principles and your values.
That's true. That's true. And we'll kind of like end off in a sec here, but something I want to point out is like, there's probably a lot of you out here that are single and it's not by choice. Some of you want to get into a relationship. Some of you want to be able to explore or try to date, and you want to get into that. But I challenge you guys to not just be single because of the situation, but be single by choice. Because there is a beauty in actually being single and developing yourself, because it becomes a selfless thing when you're just not necessarily working on yourself just for yourself, but you're working on yourself for your significant other in the future. Because I promise you, he or she will absolutely love it. The fact that you have chosen to keep yourself for marriage, and that's a beautiful thing for Christian dating as a whole. Like, I'm gonna wait for that person. I promise you, they're going to love it. So there is somebody out there for you. There is somebody that God has designed for you to be together, and you need to just focus on developing yourself and taking your time. Don't rush into things. Do not rush into things. So be single by choice. Choose that.
Yeah, leaving on a good note. That's good, Jesse. That is our episode. We want to encourage you to engage with us. Leave your comments. Leave topics that we could potentially talk about and discuss. To kind of bring
dating
you
apps.
We'll link a couple dating apps on here. SSB dating.
Tell us your dating apps. No, seriously though. Tell us what you want us to talk about. We want to engage with you guys. We want you guys to feel like you are in a conversation with us. So we look forward to hearing from you guys. Please like, comment, subscribe. Stay engaged and stay tuned for another episode. Peace and love.
Love y'all, man.
Love y'all.